gospel of the circumcision was unto Peter.
Okay, verse 8.
Verse 8 says, for the same God who worked through Peter as the apostle, to the Jews also worked through me as the apostle to the Gentiles.
Right.
And when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the grace that was given unto me, they gave to me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship, that we should go unto the heathen, and they unto the circumcision.
Okay, go back to chapter 1, verse 11. Let's talk about this. Okay? Verse 11 says, for I would have you know, brethren, that the gospel that was preached by me is not according to what? Man. Okay? It didn't come from man. Verse 12, for I neither received it from whom? Man. Nor was I taught it, but I received it through a what? A revelation. Okay? Now, look down at verse 15. But when God, who had set me apart even from my mother's womb and called me through his grace, was pleased, in verse 16, to reveal his Son in me so that I might preach him among the Gentiles, I did not immediately consult with flesh and blood. Okay, now look at your sheet. The gospel that Paul preached, A, was not a human message. Man did not invent it. Okay? It was not a human message. First bullet, there you go. Not a human message. Okay? Right? It was, that's verse 11. Look at verse 12. It was not of human origin. Man was not the source of it. It was not a human transmission. Transmission. Man did not teach it to him. It was not from human consultation. Man did not develop it. Yes, go ahead. Consultation? C-O-N? C-O-N-S-U-L-T-A-T-I-O-N. In other words, they didn't get together and consult each other. There you go. Man did not develop it. So see, Paul says right there in 11 and 12, all I did was break this out. He didn't get this from a human. Humans didn't invent it. They weren't the source of it. Humans didn't teach it to him. And he did not consult. See, verse 12, I did not receive it from a man, nor was I taught it. So it didn't come from man. I didn't get it from man. They didn't teach it to me. How does he say he got it? A revelation. A revelation. See, our faith is based on revelation, that God revealed himself, that God took the initiative to speak to us. Now, a lot of people doubt that. Okay? I want you to hold your place here, and I want you to go to Matthew chapter 16.
The gospel Paul preached was.
Oh, I hadn't got that far yet. Hold your place in Galatians and go to Matthew 16. All right. Who'd like to read verse in chapter 16, read 16 and 17?
And Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven.
All right. Jesus asked them, who do people say that I am? Okay. And then he asked them, but who do you say that I am? And Peter pipes up and says, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And in verse 17, where did Jesus say he got his information? How did Peter know that?
It was revealed.
It was revealed to him. It's revealed. In other words, flesh and blood didn't teach this to him. It's revealed. What you and I know about God, God revealed to us. Okay? We couldn't know it unless God revealed it to us. Right? So, there's another passage where what we believe is revealed. It's what we are trusting is that God has given us revelation about himself. Okay? Go back to Galatians. Look at verse 15 through 17. Let me read that. But when God, who had set me apart, even from my mother's womb, called me through his grace, was pleased to reveal his Son, there's the word reveal again, in me, so that I might preach him among the Gentiles, I did not immediately consult with flesh and blood, nor did I go up to Jerusalem to those who were apostles before me, but I went away to Arabia and returned once more to Damascus. Okay? So, the gospel Paul preached, capital letter B, was revealed. Was revealed. And it was revealed, the first bullet is by God. It was revealed by God. God was the source. Okay? Verse 17, it was revealed to Paul. God produced the data.
The second bullet was what now?
The second bullet is to Paul. To Paul. So first it's revealed by God. God was the source. It was revealed to Paul. God produced the data. Okay, look at verse 16. Jesus Christ, God showed it to Paul. Yep. See, God revealed, remember where was Paul when he met Christ? On the Damascus Road, and he had a revelation. And who did he see? He saw Jesus Christ. Okay? So God is the one that shows him this. And in verse 17, independently to Paul. So the gospel was revealed, it's revealed independently to Paul. He did not get it from anybody else. Independently to Paul, God's apostles confirmed it. Okay? So here's what happens. Here's what Paul is saying in that passage in Galatians. Verse 11 and 12. Nobody showed this to me. God revealed it to me. Nobody taught it to me. Nobody gave it to me. It didn't come from a human. What I'm preaching is not human. It came from outside of the human race. And God revealed it to me. Then in chapter 2, verse 6 and 7, what he says is that when he went to Jerusalem, verse 7, on the contrary, seeing that I had been entrusted with the gospel to the uncircumcised, just as Peter had been to the circumcised, for he who effectually worked for Peter in his apostleship to the circumcised effectually worked for me also to the Gentiles. Verse 9, and recognizing the grace that had been given to me, James and Cephas and John, who reputed to be the pillars, gave to me and Barnabas the right hand of fellowship. In other words, what God had independently shown Paul when he goes later and checks with the pillars of the church, Cephas and John and James, it's the same gospel. So here's Paul over here, God reveals himself to him. And then he leaves and goes into the desert. 3 years later, he comes and he checks with them just to make sure that what he's saying is on target. And when he checks with them, they say, "Yep, it's the same. Yep, you're right on target." Yet confirmation. And so he says, "Well, my God has sent me to the Gentiles," and they said, "Well, that's good because God has sent us to the Jews." Same gospel. Okay? All right. Turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 2. 1 Corinthians chapter 2. Look at verse 9 and 10. Well, I'm going to start in verse 6. 1 Corinthians chapter 2. So I'm going to start at verse 6. All right, let's just read again. Start with Pam, and we'll go back around again.
Yet we do speak wisdom among those who are mature. A wisdom, however, not of this age, nor of the rulers of this age who are passing away.
Okay, Eddie, verse 7.
But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom which God ordained before the word unto our glory.
Which none of the princes of this world knew, for had they knew it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory.
Okay.
Verse 9, but as it is written, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him.
Okay, verse 10.
God has revealed them unto us by his Spirit. For the Spirit searches all things, yea, the deep things of God.
Okay.
For who among men knowing the thoughts of man, except the spirit of man, which is in him? Even so the thoughts of God no one knows except the Spirit of God.
Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit which is of God, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of God.
Okay.
Which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teacheth, but which the Holy Ghost teacheth, comparing spiritual things with spiritual.
Verse 14 says, but people who aren't spiritual can receive these truths from God as a spirit. It all sounds foolish to them, and they can't understand it. For only those who are spiritual can understand what spirit means.
Okay.
But he that is spiritual judges all things, yet he himself is judged of no man.
For who hath known the mind of the Lord, that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ.
Okay, that's good. All right. Now, in the first bullet there, it says God has revealed himself. God has revealed himself through words in a way that his Spirit makes understandable to humans. God has revealed himself through words in a way that his Spirit makes understandable to humans. Okay? Go back to verse 6. And I'm reading out a New American Standard. Yet we do not speak wisdom among those who are mature, a wisdom, however, not of this age. Okay? Look at verse 7. But we speak God's wisdom. So now Paul has told us in Galatians where he got this information. He didn't get it from a human source. He got it from an alien source. Okay? Not of this world. Okay? That's where he got it from. Okay? Willie, this crew is rough. I'm telling you. You got to be able You got to be able to roll with the punches with these guys. Yeah. I'm wishing Scotty would beam a couple of them up, you know. Lord, take them, will you? Just go. Got it. Are you hearing me up there? Okay. Okay. So Galatians, he got it. It didn't come out of this world. Okay. It came from out of this world. It didn't come from this world. Now he's telling us not where it came from. Now he's telling us how it came. It wasn't human wisdom. Okay. Verse 8 says, the wisdom, none of the rulers of this age would understand it. For if they had understood it, they wouldn't have crucified him. Notice verse 9, but just as it is written, and this is a quote from Isaiah, things which eye has not seen and ear has not what? Heard, and which have not entered into the heart of man. So the things that have been spoken, have been revealed, they aren't things which eye has seen, they aren't things that ear has heard, they aren't things that come out of the heart of man. Verse 10, where'd they come from? God did what? He revealed them. Through, how did he do it? Through whom? The Spirit. The Spirit revealed them because the Spirit searches all things, even what? The deep things of God. Now, do you and I, do we understand all there is of God? No. So see, we can't. We're a created being. He's the creator. All right? So, the Spirit that knows all about God because he is God, he's the one that revealed these things to us. Okay, now look at verse 11. For who among a man knows the thoughts of a man except the spirit of a man, which is in him? Even so, the thoughts of God no one knows except the Spirit of God. Okay, so it takes God to show himself to us. So the Spirit of God knows God. Now, verse 12, now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, so that we may know the things freely given to us by God. Verse 13, which things we also speak, not in words taught by human wisdom, but in those taught by the Spirit, combining spiritual thoughts with spiritual words. Now here's what he's saying. He's saying God revealed himself through words. God revealed himself through words. Okay? God revealed himself to Paul personally, but the message that these men got came in the form of words. Now here's the second bullet. Those who have God's Spirit can detect and understand God's mind. Those who have God's Spirit can detect and understand God's mind expressed by his thoughts. See, God is communicating from his mind to our mind. Expressed by his thoughts, revealed through his words. Revealed through his words. See, if I want to express what's in my mind to your mind, how am I going to do that? Words. Okay, we're made in the image of God. God is expressing his mind to the mind of his creature, and he's doing it through words.
Let me move it again. Those who have God's Spirit can detect and understand God's mind. Okay. Expressed by his
Thoughts. Revealed through his words. The next bullet. This answers the agnostic presupposition. Presupposition. They assume, the agnostic, what's an agnostic? That means they don't think there is a God. They don't think an atheist says there is no God. Okay? An agnostic says, I don't know if there's a God.
I know I can do this. Go back to group, but kind of with
Presupposition, sure. Presupposition. It means to suppose. Now let's just talk about that for a minute. An atheist, A means no. The prefix A means no. Theist, God, no God. The atheist says there is no God. How does he know? He doesn't know. You believe that by faith. Now they sound so smart and intellectual, okay? Now how does he know there's no God? How does he know for sure? He doesn't know. He can't know. He's got to know everything. He's got to know everything there is to know. How much of all the information in the universe does any one man have? 10%. So next time you meet an atheist, you ask them this. How much information, out of all the knowledge and information in the whole universe, how much information do you possess? 10%? None of them will say, oh, no. 1%? Oh, no. Much less. Okay. Let's just suppose you, Charles, that you know 1% of all the information in the universe. You'd be pretty smart. Your head would be pretty big. Is it possible that in the 99% of all the information in the universe that you don't know, is there room for God in that 99%? Oh, yeah. See, the atheist, that is an ignorant position. It's foolish. Go ahead.
But the Bible is clear on this. Before you can have things revealed, you got to be a believer. So if he's not a believer, it's never going to be revealed to him anyway.
Well, he's got to at least be open to it. Okay, now here's Paul. Let's just talk about Paul for a minute. Paul is riding hard and fast against Jesus. And he runs right into him. Okay? So God can get our attention. Okay? God? Yeah. He thought he was doing the right thing. A lot of lost people think they're doing the right thing.
But the difference between Paul and the atheist, Paul believed in God. He didn't believe in Jesus. He hadn't come to the realization that Jesus and God were one and the same. So he still believed in a higher power.
Right.
Atheists don't believe in a higher power.
Right. But I want to tell you, God can get their attention.
No doubt.
God can get there. So anyway, what I was setting up for you is the atheist believes what he believes by faith, and it's blind faith. It's blind faith. Let's just suppose, for you to be an atheist and be sure of it, you got to know everything. If you knew everything, you'd be God. But then you got to be everywhere too. What happens if you go looking for God over on Mars and he's hiding behind the moon? And then when you go over behind the moon, he flips over by Venus. You got to be everywhere. So you got to know everything. You got to be omniscient. You got to be everywhere. You got to be omnipresent. In order to do that, you got to be all powerful. You got to be God. In order to know there is no God, but then that wouldn't work because you'd be God. So when an atheist tells you he's an atheist, he's an atheist by faith. And so you can ask him, how do you know? Now an agnostic says, well, see, I was an atheist. I thought I was. And then I finally came to the conclusion I couldn't prove that. So I backed down to an agnostic. It means I can't know. Now see, what the agnostic says is he supposes that God cannot be known because we cannot detect him with our five senses. Okay, so what the agnostic says is if I can't touch it, taste it, smell it, see it, or hear it, it must not be real. That's the agnostic. Okay? Now let me ask you something. If I can't detect it with my five senses, it must not be real. And there's all kind of smart people that believe that. Now let me ask you a question. Are there cell phone waves going through here? Have you seen one? Yeah, so when you when you meet your agnostic, you say, now, are there cell phone waves going through here? Well, of course. Here's what happens in university. Who believes in God? Oh, I do. Have you ever seen him? No. Have you ever heard him speak to you? No. Ha! You hadn't seen him, you hadn't heard him. You ever felt him? Well, I think so. You mean you believe in this God, and you hadn't seen him, you hadn't heard him, you hadn't felt him, you've never met him, but you believe in him. So what you want to do is turn the argument around and say, well, do you believe in cell phone waves or radio waves? Well, yeah. Have you ever seen one? No. Have you ever smelled one? No. Ever touched one? No. But you got a cell phone. You have evidence. You see? Now, here's what happens. See, look at verse 14, 1 Corinthians 2:14. Then we're going to take a break. But a natural man does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, and he cannot understand them because they are spiritually appraised. He doesn't have a cell phone.
Come on. You said, I'm trying to write stuff down.
You got it going on tonight.
You got to have Holy Spirit service. If you don't got Holy Spirit service, you ain't going to get the call. All right? It ain't coming. You can walk around all day. If you don't got a phone, you're not going to hear it ring. All right? So we're going to get this brother a cell phone, and now when it rings, he'll hear it. So see, I don't care if you're a genius. You can be a genius. If you don't have a cell phone, you're not hearing those waves. Am I right? That's right. So I don't care how smart you are. If you left your cell phone at home or you don't have one, you're not hearing the call. It's got nothing to do with how smart you are. It's got everything to do about you got a cell phone. Do you have the Spirit? If you don't have the Spirit. See, what does that cell phone do? That cell phone takes those waves and it turns it into something that we can hear. Same thing like a radio. Now, I have to tell you, I did this at church one day. Then I'm going to tell you this and we'll take a break. I had gotten a radio, a boombox, and I'd put it on the Lord's Supper table. And I was preaching on this, and I said, do you believe in radio waves? And they go, yeah. I said, have you ever seen a radio? No, I never saw a radio wave. You ever touch a radio? No, I never touched a radio wave. But you believe in them. See? Well, they're real. They're going all through here. But you got to have something that takes the radio wave and turns it into something that you and I can detect. That's why God gave us a Spirit, and that's why God put it in writing, and God spoke to us on our level. So I said, listen, there's radio waves going all over the place in this room. Now, you got to know your my congregation. You got to know your congregation. I thought, I'm not putting it on rock and roll. Because, see, I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to prove there's radio waves. So I said, I'll put it on country western, okay? Because, you know, in the people I serve, if it's gospel and it sounds like country western, it's of God. But if it sounds like rock and roll, it's from the devil. But it could be the same words. You know, it could be exactly the same words. It could be both Psalm 23, but that one from the devil. So, Willie, I went over and I turned it on, and it was Sunday morning. Some preacher was on there, and he said, it's sin. I tell you, it's sin. So I turned the radio on, and I thought, oh, my goodness, turn it back. The problem is sin. And I thought, if I had tried to time that out, I'd never timed it. So, all right, we need to take a break.